watch. I mean, along with the one that you guys actually just got done with over on LG versus ALG. And that went Game 5, Round 11, a huge comeback that actually happened for the side of ALG. I think just coming into this one, I mean, this is an absolute incredible matchup to be witnessing. We're currently in loser semis, and whoever wins this is guaranteed top 3. Loser goes home, and after a fantastic run that both of these quads have, I'm sure that they don't want to, be able to kind of realize all the matches they've had so far. They don't want to end it here. They want to keep that streak going.
Oh, absolutely. And if you take a look at Allegiance, we've been doubting them all weekend long. They've been overperforming, it seems like, just winning so many crazy matchups. And at this point, do we even call it an upset? Right? They've been doing it all tournament long, beating teams that we wouldn't usually just put over them. They've beaten Luminosity Gaming twice. It's not a fluke if you do it twice. That means that Luminosity has an obvious weakness, especially if you saw it throughout both series, right?
Right.
Mainly in that Search and Destroy. Team Allegiance, they talked about just what their strength is, and that is Search and Destroy at the moment. Search and Destroy wins tournaments when that's 2 of your 5 game modes, and you get 2 chances at Hardpoint, which is another 2 of your 5 game modes in a best-of-5 series. That can be a pretty big advantage to work with, especially when you can force that Game 5. When they have players like Moch and Sinful who are really just on this weekend, that's a huge advantage for them. The question is, will that be enough for them to put them over top of the talent? The stacked talent all over this Faze roster.
Star power, yeah. I mean, that's going to be the difficult thing to kind of bring up. And I think when it comes down to this Allegiance roster, there was actually an interview right after the LG series that Deserto had done, and it was actually talking with Sinful, and he was discussing, and he was saying, there's such different play styles that we have on this team. You look at a player like Moch, you look at a player like Royalty, completely opposite, right? Moch likes to play a little bit more passive when Royalty's constantly in your face. I think I took this out the other day. I think his sensitivity is higher than my IQ, which isn't really saying much, but it's definitely, I mean, the guy is just so fast-paced, and it's insane to see. And he said, whenever we're all playing on the same wavelength, when we can actually connect with one another, that's when we start to see success. So I think that's going to have to be the major factor when it comes down to this first map. You're facing off against a very talented Faze lineup, definitely the stacked team, the team who's basically expected to win this game #1 hardpoint, but it's time to hop into this one. Fasten your seatbelts. It's time for losers, semis, Faze, ALG.
So we're seeing Enable open things up with the MB4. On the opposite side is Mochilla, who's going to find a kill before him. Enable trading back takes down the main AR of Allegiance. So this should give free reign for players to push up here onto Remy. But Remy's going to find 2 kills before finally being taken out. Enable contributing a whole lot to this hard point right now, but nothing coming from it. There's still no hill time, and he gets rushed by Royalty.
And a big team kill as well there from the Faze side, but Attach trying to hold strong here. Ends up dropping just short, but ALG trying to hold strong. You also have to kind of keep in mind the rotations are going to be coming in here from Bike Street. Sinful decides to push forward. If you win these kills, that's going to be big. Zuma had no idea where he was coming from. Unfortunately, Sinful does end up dropping. Remy will be awarded the scrap points for now, but rotations are the important thing. Attach actually going to win that one, so now it's going to be Faze getting some much-needed time, but the rotations are what they definitely need to kind of set their way forward, as Remy currently coming from market.
Initial time. Scrap time going to Faze. Initial time as well. They are set up for this rotation. Remy is the first one into the action. He's able to find a kill. He gets traded out, but still kills have gone in favor of Allegiance. Zuma trying to even up the odds. Clayster here is preparing for that top stair push. So now that's going to spawn Allegiance all the way out towards Graveyard. Now just keep in mind, that is the direction of the next hard point. So if they're able to keep that side of the map, that could be huge for them. But still, in that amount of time, until that time comes, we're going to see Faze get this hill time uncontested.
And Faze actually, Clayster ended up just dying off of that 5 spree. We talk about the slaying presence that they absolutely bring, and they seem to be having a great time so far. But of course, the rotations are going to be very important. It seems that Allegiance kind of content. They're just trying to make sure they have this set up here inside of market, of course, for the next rotation, which is going to be over in Grave. Sinful shuts down Clayster, so now it's going to be 3v4 set up and Detach. Able to shut down Remy, Enable still getting the scrap points, so it seems that Detach trying to make a little bit of a wave open. And that whole push from Allegiance could be destroyed here in just a few seconds, but he ends up dropping. That's going to be Attach who falls. Now Mochilla is still alive in the hill. So in some ways, that entire setup, a free 15 seconds that they awarded to Faze, is now in some cases already being broken.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the shot call right there. I want to know who started to orchestrate that play and just said to not push when they had about 40 seconds and at least one attempt. I understand they had very good spawns and they wanted to hold on to it, but it looks like that's not going to pay off at all as they're spawning far out and Faze is set up, and now they're on the offense.
You got to keep in mind how much longer is ALG going to push this, because of course the rotation to destroyed building is really the money hill when it comes down to retaliation. And of course, the push coming in from Faze already is ALG. And just awkward map positioning overall. Zuma's able to find one, finds the second. That is a huge couple kills coming in sequence there from the Faze side. Zuma's challenging stuff like that. You can definitely see he's feeling confident. But with that in mind, it's like Enable's getting the scrap points. ALG is trying to rotate over, but it seems that every time Faze is constantly pushing them. They're constantly winning the rotation battle, and that's been the issue for ALG. Yet they're rotating, they're trying to set up for new hills, but Faze is just absolutely destroying every setup that ALG throws at them.
Yeah, now Faze in position again. Clayster, we've just been seeing a lot of this. Him just ADSing and waiting for someone to cross his crosshairs. Then he hits those shots with the quickness and just with such ease. He makes it look easy. So now it's up to Allegiance to try and force the issue here. Remy is in a good position to do so. He finds one kill, but expect him to be traded here shortly after. There's one player just behind him on the opposite side of Broken. There he is, caught in the back. That's attached. Great communication from the Faze players right there to clean up that issue. Now, with just 25 seconds remaining, Clay, I think, knows that he's on borrowed time right now, right? The rest of Allegiance is swarming, and they should be able to get that scrap time. So it's up to him once he gets off spawn to try and set up for hallway hardpoint here. Looks like player 8, that's going to be Zuma, pushing up to try and force them back into Broken a little bit more. It's not going to pay off, though, as Zuma just ends up spawning farther out of the action, and Allegiance is already set up for this next hardpoint, as well as being awarded that scrap time.
And this is going to be a contested battle, gunfight already starting to happen as Royalty shuts down Enable. Tatch actually going to go through bar, making sure that rotation from Allegiance is going to be covered. Royalty currently inside of the hill. Tatch still trying to win a few gunfights on the outside. It seemed to go his favor. So with that in mind, Allegiance getting a few seconds here and there, but granted, they'd be down by about 200 points if they weren't actually getting any time. And it looks like in the last destroyed building hill, they were able to get a few seconds. Faze rotating here early, but in the end, it still seems that Allegiance are grabbing some points here and there, but I'm just waiting for Faze's setup, waiting for the pinch to kind of come into play potentially, as there is one player on the rotation that is going to be Clayster. He's a big power player for this next hill.
Right, so we've seen a lot of Faze on the defense. Let's see how they are on offense trying to break the hard point. Trades going back and forth. Things starting off in favor of Allegiance, though, so how is Faze going to respond? Allegiance still getting so much hill time, uncontested so far. Oh, 2 gunfights going in favor of Royalty there. That's going to net him even more time. Probably the remainder of that scrap time as the hard point rotates over to Bridge. You can see player 7 on the top right corner of that map. That's going to be Enable setting up for it, patiently waiting.
To me, that's exactly what ALG is going to need. You know, granted, they kind of played a little bit slow. They had weird setups in those first set of rotations. They need, in my opinion, Royalty to kind of just push them out, just to kind of be that nuisance always in their face, just to be that annoying player and to kind of be constantly flaking inside of Faze, making them think, oh, is there someone on the rotation? Pushing random things and just kind of making Faze basically just kind of nervous and kind of wondering where exactly is that player lingering. So with that in mind, I'd like to see Royalty kind of become more of an impact. Of course, currently -1, but most kills for his team at the moment. But as far as the kill column is considered, Zuma, 18-11, a fantastic start for him. Of course, a lot of engagements going down for him, as he is, per usual, a player who likes to get in a lot of those.
Yep, high engagement games from Zuma all the time. Very high impact kills. Definitely someone you should look for to do that damage. You know, Tatch, he's going to be the one holding on to the scrap time here, getting a little aggression from Sinful, but Enable's able to put him to rest, and now the rotation comes in. We see player 3, that's Remy, taking point, should get that initial time for the team. The only person in range to do something about it is Clayster, coming through from garage. He's able to take Remy out. Now, that should force him to spawn towards Broken, as his teammates have the graveside spawn, but it looks like he still doesn't have hill control. Takes out Royalty, takes out Mochilla. That's 2 dead. Allegiance far out of position right here, and Faze looks like they're set up to get another full 60.
Faze is just absolutely dominating. I mean, like I said, we talk about they're getting scrap points, yet they're on the rotation again. I mean, that's like a 3v4, if not a 2v4 gunfight, and Faze is still managing to come out with it. 3 go down, Royalty the last alive, and he's currently sitting in a bike shop. He's weak. Of course, he does start to regen health, but to no avail. He starts to find a few kills, but in sequence, it's Faze who are still grabbing the points. I mean, this has just been an absolute dominant performance from Faze. An expected win for Faze in this hard point, but not by necessarily this margin.
Yeah, this is a pretty hefty lead being boasted by the Faze players here. And this is what we saw before, right, where Allegiance gave up the hill, definitely much later this time than previously, but Faze was actually able to break this setup very easily and force Allegiance to spawn out towards Broken. And look at your mini-map. Remy's actually going to be the one to spawn way out towards Broken, so now we see a 2 versus 2 engagement here. Royalty, though, is able to shift the odds in his favor by killing Zuma. And then we see Clayster is able to get the trade. One more engagement just around the corner, being tagged up in the back, though. That's going to make it difficult. Allegiance is able to hold on for just a little bit longer, but Enable's coming through, and he's the difference maker. He gets the hill time, forces him to spawn out, and this should be the end of the game. 250 to 111. The Faze fans in the crowd are going crazy. That was a pretty easy hard punt, I'd say.
I'm just really disappointed in Allegiance, man. I mean, they had so many opportunities. They were on the rotation, and that it's like they always set up for Graves so heavily. They weren't even willing to challenge. It was the first set of rotations, and FaZe has a free 20 seconds. They set up over in Graves. They obviously waste those 20 seconds, and then they just get beat. It was a 3 versus 4, and they keep losing those. Obviously, it just goes to show the slang prowess from that FaZe side is absolutely dominant. Of course, when you look at the kill column, it wasn't necessarily one player constantly performing over the other. 22 and 17 for Zoom, like I said, those constant engagements. When you look at the hill time, though, 2 minutes and 15 seconds there for Enable. As like we said, FaZe able to take that game to 1 in a dominant fashion. Only a 7-minute and 30-second overall hardpoint game.
What's funny is that Enable had the least amount of kills out of everybody on his team, but I feel like he was honestly the most impactful. A lot of his trades were just huge and incredibly timely for the team. Zuma, of course, I think is the most impactful, but Enable was playing an amazing supporting role to his team. Clayster was able to break some hills every now and then, and even on the defense, Clayster was huge for them. So really just everyone contributing in those roles that they need to contribute in.
Right, like we said, though, kind of coming into the series, it was the fact that we expect FaZe to take the hard point, so that kind of goes in, as expected. However, though, not by that fashion. Like, they just absolutely outclassed them in every single sequence of what went on in that game.
But I think that's a pretty fair fashion for them to win. I kind of expected at least one of these 2 hard points, if we make it to that point, to be pretty one-sided. I think that FaZe has shown their strength is like just the best hard point team in the Call of Duty World League at the moment. And Allegiance, their strength lies in Search and Destroy, Landon. So this is what we're getting into next. Is Search and Destroy is map number 2, that's Crusher.
I'm just really worried about the respawns. And I mean, I know Allegiance obviously has to try to win that one uplink, of course, if they're able to win this one. But that one uplink, I mean, based on the slang prowess that FaZe is showing, I mean, they're going to have some excellent teamwork when it comes down to it. Not obviously trying to get ahead of myself here. Of course, Crusher S&D for game number 2. With that in mind, I mean, FaZe is no slouch in Search and Destroy. It's not like this is a team who's struggling in that game type. They're very solid at many things. I think uplink is one of their slower ones. But still, when it comes down to it, I mean, I'm expecting to see some sniper play, I think, out of Clayster. Do you know if Allegiance has been sniping a lot? I know you were casting it last series versus LG. Do you see any snipers be pulled out?
Mochilla is the player you should expect to pull out the sniper. Okay. He likes running the KBS longbow. And he'll be looking over middle map quite a bit, but he doesn't really get too many first bloods. He's not a first blood kind of sniper. He might get it later on in the round.
Also just information.
So I think I kind of compare him to the likes of Chino, where he's not really going to pull off any sort of highlight reel worthy plays or like find a lot of first bloods for the team. It seems more like once the enemy team executes, Mochilla becomes more and more useful with the sniper. He's not very great in the early stages of the game, other than applying that pressure that a sniper can bring.
Exactly, and of course we're just waiting for all the players to ready up so we can obviously hop into this game. And one thing that I'm curious to see when it comes down to the rig draft is Sinful. I know he's been grabbing the FTL jump a lot. We've been having a lot of discussions about that particular payload when it comes down to certain things. You're talking about Octane not having a huge amount of momentum when it kind of comes down to it. Not a whole lot of gunfights going in his favor, and really didn't have an opportunity to use it. But I'm curious to see how Sinful is able to rock it. I mean, like we said, it's been in constant times, and for certain players it works, for some others it doesn't. But I'm curious to see how obviously how the payloads kind of come into this game when it comes down to active camo being as powerful as it has been. And we obviously know what active camo can do for ALG, as that was the major factor in what won them the game versus Luminosity just maybe 30 minutes ago.
As we get into Search and Destroy land, and we've both spoken about just some of the strengths on the side of Allegiance in this game mode. This is really their bread and butter, and their only chance at winning in this series is if they can take these S&Ds. I got to say, FaZe pretty much outclasses them in every other game mode, and 2 of the 3 game modes in this series. And FaZe, I definitely think, is more than capable of taking at least one of these S&Ds off of Mochilla and company on Team Allegiance. I think that would make a huge statement, and I think that would completely demoralize the Allegiance roster and allow FaZe to get the 3-0. If they can take this S&D, it's going to be an easy 3-0.
I definitely agree. I think, like I said, we're going to need to see a powerful play coming in from this side of Allegiance when it comes down to it. We talk about those first bloods, those impactful plays, how is Royalty going to perform. I know on a Crusher S&D, I believe it was like day 1, he ended up pulling out a MAC-tab, which is kind of interesting to see. A lot of interesting strategies that we could see potentially come from the ALG side, but it's all up to how FaZe can obviously respond to those things and how they can kind of counteract it. But obviously it's time to hop in here to the rig draft for game number 2. Like we said, a dominant victory for FaZe in that first hardpoint over on Retaliation, 250 to 111. As we're going to be taking a look and seeing if we see anything interesting. And it seems that instead of a normal FTL jump that we've been seeing from Sinful throughout a lot of the weekend, it seems that he's going to be going for the rewind. So nothing obviously out of character when it comes down to the at least payload selection.
Well, today we've seen in all the S&Ds, Sinful's actually been opting to go with the rewind and the combat burst, and he likes to get the kill and just and prevent being traded. So he gets the kill and just dips back out, right? So he'll hold an angle for a long time, wait for someone to cross him, and then he dips away before he can get traded. And I think that's the pros versus cons of having that over propulsion, and that's really the only difference that we're seeing here, like you mentioned.
Indeed, and of course, just kind of taking a look at the notes and the stats that have kind of gone throughout this incredible losers bracket run up to this point. Of course, Final Four currently going on, T9 and Rise over on Alpha, and of course ALG and Faze over on Bravo. But it seems, you know, when it kind of comes down to this Final Four, I don't really think this is what a lot of people expected. I mean, maybe Faze is in here. No one was really predicting Allegiance. Rise Nation was looking pretty decent at online scrims. I can kind of give that to them as well. But there's definitely a chance that they can make it. C9, not really. I mean, they were kind of known as an online team. People always like to bring up Patrick Price's hosts. Cloud9, yeah.
You said that you think Cloud9's an online team. Is that what you're saying?
I said that's what people were thinking.
Oh, okay.
Because they were always talking about in the 2K and saying, oh, Pat's host, Patrick Price's host, Aches' host, how he always is able to make that happen. So not saying that they're an online team, in my opinion. I'm just saying that was kind of like a lot of people's opinions kind of coming into this particular one. And teams like Faze, obviously Envy, Optic Gaming, no, maybe not Faze, but Envy and Optic Gaming not actually in this Final Four. So definitely surprising to see. This has been a interesting tournament, to say the least. As far as a prediction standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the upsets that have been single-handedly caused by this ALG roster definitely stand out to me the most. I mean, I definitely didn't predict them to make it past the second day of the tournament, and here they are on Championship Sunday facing what most people think will be the team that wins it all. Is Faze Clan at the moment. You know, dethroning Optic Gaming and taking them away from a championship for a second time is just an insane thing to see. So, or for what, second, third time, something like that within the past couple of years coming from this Faze roster.
It's been a little time since they obviously fought, but it will be Faze Clan who walks away with that. We'll see if Faze can fare off against ALG in game number 2. Sniper being pulled out for Clayster off the break. A lot of kills going down. Of course, a lot of attention over already on this A side. Looks like 2 down for either side. Now Remy wondering what just happened to all of his teammates. His 3 fall, and now a 1 versus 2 as he's going to have to clutch up if he wants this round number 1 victory in ALG's favor.
So we see Clayster and Zuma both playing the buddy system towards mid. They don't want to give anything up here. They don't want to end up getting caught and having both of them drilled in the back. So expect to see them set up some kind of a crossfire with whatever their movement is. There's no reason at all for them to ever separate here, especially because they don't have a read on where Remy is at. They're just kind of fishing right now.
Remy looking through middle, of course, trying to go for this B hit. Well, unfortunately for him, that's going to spell some bad news. But that one player on the wall run, Clayster not able to stay alive as he falls off the map. He gets tagged. It's not easy to try and stay up, but now it's going to be a 1 versus 1. I believe Remy's going to spot Zuma. Can he connect with the 1 versus 2? Zuma trying to linger. It's all about, will Remy go on the rotation, or is he going to stay here? It seems he is going to try and stay to fight this one out. Over toward that rocket clutch. Good timing, and that's going to do it. Remy clutches up in the 1 versus 2. The buddy system isn't able to work. Clayster gets shut down on the wall run. And that's going to spell bad news as Remy and ALG already getting a little bit of the momentum.
What a beautiful way for that to play out, too. Remy clutching that 1 versus 2. Should not have happened. This should have been a round win in favor of Faze Clan. They had the world. They had everything on their side in that moment, but an unfortunate turn of events here for them. Allegiance is up 1-0. So let's see how the opening strategies play out here. Clayster takes a sniper towards mid again, whiffs that first shot. We have yet to see a sniper battle between the likes of Clayster and Moch. Moch actually opting to run the K-bar in the first round there, was able to find one of the first engagements on the B site. And now Clayster on mid, just trying to apply some pressure here. Even though all of Allegiance was able to cross over, he still has that information to give to the rest of his team.
Despite the sniper being in middle, Allegiance kind of realizing that push going toward B is an absolute likely one, but Enable with the bomb in his hands. They're just on that outside corner. He's going to try to check this one. Enable firing some warning shots as ALG decides to try and back up, maybe even try to regroup a little bit. Clayster still in the back with that sniper rifle, trying to find a few peeks here and there. Not able to respond with anything as of yet, but they're just getting ready to round the corner. Clayster shuts down Sinful. Enable comes from the side. Able to shut down 1, but he's not able to find him. Now Clayster's left in a 1 versus 2. Remy yet again finding 2 in a round. He's 4-0, and Clayster tends to rock the sniper rifle in this situation. Has the OSA in his back pocket, so just for good measure.
That right there should have been a 2-piece from Enable. He didn't see the person laying down prone just in front of him to his left after finding that initial kill, and that person reacted so slowly to it.
can he? I'm going to say, I don't think he can make it to that A site.
Yeah, just 15 seconds here. He's kind of got to commit to site B here. Oh, and he catches him on some really good time. He actually could have gone down for the plant there, but no, that player probably would have gone and checked the site anyway. Wins that first engagement. They played it 50-50. He doesn't have enough time to catch Remy, who's just going to give himself even more distance. He already knows the round's over. Allegiance is up 2-0.
Actually, that was an odd play. I mean, it's kind of like the rotation. We saw that, obviously, early pick coming in from Clayster, trying to look for a few players through middle. They obviously send the rotation forward. Well, he's able to find a kill. If Enable could have maybe found that two-piece, if he could have maybe had that aim kind of go forward, I wonder if his gun might have blocked that player who was on the ground.
It did nose to the left. He just, he probably could have just overlooked it because he was looking up in the air for the first kill he got.
Right, well, let's go and hop into round number 3. Allegiance now on the offensive. Mochila with the bomb in hand is going to send a few players forward. Sinful with the OSA. Player should like to go in and clear out of sight. Trophies down just to make sure those nades aren't effective. It seems that one player's going to know this is going through. Well, Clayster able to escape. Hornet in hand as well, so that Hornet definitely going to play a major factor when it comes down to it. Sniper rifle in hand with the other one, not able to finish off the shot. And Sinful responds with that one over on Zuma. 3 versus 2, now make it a 1 versus 3. Remy having to clutch up yet again, but Clayster is going to make him pay for it as Faze finally get on the board.
And there it is. Faze puts their first number up here. I feel like Clayster's sniper hasn't really had too much of an impact here other than him getting them information. And he's just not really applying too much pressure as a sniper for them. And I say that as he finds a headshot for the final kill. But I think even if he wasn't there, Enable probably would have gone over and cleaned that kill up pretty easily. So I'm looking forward to see if he can make something happen here with it. He's currently 5-1, so he's definitely doing some damage here this game. But I don't think a lot of it is coming from the sniper.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, sniper through middle again. We'll see if we can maybe find another pick. Looks like a battle going on. I believe that is Mochila with that on the other side. Of course, another KBS longbow, different site, but see if anything can come of it. That first pick would be absolutely huge when it comes down to this offensive round, especially for Faze. But still rushing toward that A side. Enable with the bomb in hand. Players toward the back as Attach finds the first blood, and players start to line up for Enable. He tags up all of them, but it seems that 2 are still alive. Royalty picks up that one over on Enable, and Sinful needs to get up close and personal. The Horde in his hands decides to back up, and they both get two-pieced as Faze win back-to-back rounds. Big plays there coming in there for them.
And there it is. That's the momentum Faze needed. They already got off to a bad start with Allegiance getting that 2-0 lead. They're getting their confidence back that they needed because they expect to come in the search and destroy and do well. If you can shut them down and make that statement, these, with getting multiple rounds in a row like this, they should have no problem sweeping them the rest of this series. They have the ability to use this rewind here, and Clayster is just a kill away from getting his overdrive. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Clayster winds up for the sniper on middle map. Not going to see anyone cross either, so actually no information going to his teammates on the B site, who probably aren't expecting all 4 players to rush that site. However, they are still stacked towards that side of the map. First engagement goes down. Sinful finds the first win. Enable hits that trade. Excellent trading coming from the likes of Faze. Royalty should not get away for free. Enable makes sure of it. No, he actually shuts down Remy. Royalty finds a second kill, but then there it is.
Royalty just comes through after all the fallen bodies to his side. He just rushes through, and he's able to eliminate Faze from that one. You see shots coming in, tagged. He's able to shut down the sniper. Maybe if that shot could have just gone a few degrees, maybe to Clayster's right.
Let's get a protractor out.
Yeah, right? He could have shut down Royalty in that one, but fortunately for him, that is going to be ALG with the round count advantage. It is slim, but as the rounds start to tick down, as we get closer and closer to potentially around 11, we'll see if ALG can move forward with a little bit of momentum here, but shots coming forward, being exchanged rather, as Mochila is actually able to find one. Royalty finds another, so an immediate 2 versus 4 here for Faze to work forward.
Yeah, this is a scary situation if you're Faze. I think that Allegiance should have no problem working from this big advantage they set for themselves out in the first 20 seconds of the game. Enable can't finish the kill on middle map. Here's another engagement just inside. Just inside the corner. There we go. Slides around the corner. Turns his back to him. So that's a free kill for Enable. Sinful's able to shut him down, though. Clayster with the sniper here, not making too much of a difference on middle map, though.
Oh, I like this spot, actually. But he's going to be spotted, and it should be all but over, I like to say. I mean, he does have the Hornet. Can kind of act like a primary at times, but, of course, checking all of his corners. Player just up. He's still firing shots, but he manages to stay alive at this point.
Very difficult weapon to use at range like that because of the vertical recoil on the weapon. So he's not able to finish either of those 2 kills, and he gets caught turning the corner by the prone Allegiance player. Faze just they can't get first blooded. You know, I feel like one of the that's an obvious thing. You don't want to go into Search and Destroy and get first blood. That's a very fundamental part of the game. But one of these strengths of the Faze roster that we've had over the past few years is just that first blood potential from the likes of Attach and Zuma. We're not seeing that here. That's what this Faze team ran on for the past couple of years, and we're just not seeing it right now.
Yeah, we definitely have to see it on their defensive sides, because when it comes down to this particular map, 4-man hits are absolutely essential. So Sinful, the boys from Allegiance on the offensive, as he might get spotted. Needs to try to stay alive on the wall run. Definitely good movement there coming in from Sinful. Looks like he does actually not have any trophies. So with that in mind, he decides to go ahead and get the bomb down. No first bloods as of yet. Nades and shots being exchanged. As players through back rock are what FaZe is currently focusing on. Glacier for the first time decides to go and swap off of that KBS and substitutes in for an MV4. He's going to rock the overdrive in a very awkward situation. Definitely, in my opinion, not something that would be good to rock there. Of course, not really knowing exactly the positioning of the players, and ALG cut them all down. The bomb was planted, and now just like that, they're going to be up 5-2.
So FaZe attempts the retake there. I guess they wanted to get aggressive, so Clayster communicated that he was going to pop overdrive. Gets shut down immediately.
That body just flipped like crazy.
Definitely a rough match so far for FaZe, as Allegiance is just dancing circles around them. And now, there goes all their utility on the side of FaZe. And Royalty, he's about to pop his payload as well as Sinful, and they're just one round away from winning this game.
Another B hit, as it seems, as Royalty lingering through that middle map. Aggressive rushes. I believe Mochila in the back, firing some shots forward, but he ends up getting traded for that. So Clayster able to make that one happen. Royalty rocks
There's a headshot.
the overdrive. He finds one, and of course we talk about how fast he is. It's the matter of fact of just trying to keep him contained is really the issue, but Sinful rocks his rewind as well. So a lot of utility used for ALG in this round, and it seems that it's all but over. Clayster trying to stay alive, but it's not going to happen. A dominant victory, now this time in reverse when it comes down to Search and Destroy, as ALG win this one 6-2 and level the series at 1 apiece.
And if you've been following Allegiance at all this weekend, then this should be a completely expected outcome. I mean, despite the strength that we have on the side of FaZe Clan, Allegiance this is their best game mode. They're confident in it. They're comfortable in it. They're fine with coming off of that loss in Hardpoint. They're used to it at this point because they know they're just going to win the map afterwards. However, I still have faith that FaZe can win one of these two S&Ds. So if it does go to Game 5, which is what Allegiance wants, I still think that FaZe can take it over.
Yeah, no, and this is a huge map for Uplink, right? Because like I said, we talk about the things that the boys from ALG, Sinful included, need to do for this, because we always talk about they're able to win their Search and Destroys. That's not usually a problem for them, especially in this first game here, or the second game, excuse me. But they have to win at least one respawn to force that Game 5, which is what they're preferred in. So this is a huge map. It's actually going to be over on Precinct, so expect a lot of the AR battles to be kind of going on. And on a map like Precinct as well, team pushes are so important, not just in every other uplink, but especially on this map. If you're pushing from certain sides, if you're spawning on China's side, trying to go for the ticket booth rush, you got to have everything going at the same time. That was, like I said, the interview that Sinful was in. He was saying, once all of us are kind of in sync, that's when we start to dominate. And that's when a lot of their plays in uplink have been made. So that's something to be kind of looking out for. It seems like the teamwork needing to come from Allegiance, and along with the overall slang presence that FaZe brings, along with their their chemistry as well.
Yeah, so as we get into the uplink here, FaZe should be the favorite to win that game mode. Their respawn has certainly been dominant. I fully expect their strength to carry over from a hard point to uplink. I think that they have the coordination and the teamwork to make this work and make this series count 2-1. Then predicting for them to close it out in this hard point. But you can't. I can't entirely count out Allegiance here. I mean, they've been surprising me all weekend long by taking some of these maps off of teams. I've seen some of their coordination in uplink, especially from the likes of Moch and Sinful, who are just having a great weekend individually. So we'll just have to see if they can do that here. I just think that the star power on the side of FaZe is a little bit stronger for them.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we'll go and take a look here at the rigged round as far as the payloads and the traits are considered. When it comes down to your power players with the overdrive and active camo, it will be Royalty grabbing the overdrive and Mochila there with the active camo. And from the FaZe side, it looks like it's going to be enabled with the active camo, and along with Clayster with that overdrive. So nothing really surprising. I know back in the day, Clayster used to try and rock the Centurion back in uplink, then it kind of went back and forth. And of course, it's obviously great to have that overdrive. They recently switched actually to attach running the rewind in all game types. So with that in mind, we'll see how Clayster is able to use that one.
So if you're just tuning in, guys, I'm Fox. This is Landon, and we have FaZe versus Allegiance. Currently, the series is tied at 1-1 after Allegiance just comes through with a completely dominating performance in a Crusher Search and Destroy. And what we saw on map number 1 was the complete opposite. Faze just stomping all over Allegiance in that first respawn game mode. But now we're getting into our second respawn game mode, which is Uplink on the map Precinct. And if you're new to Uplink or competitive Call of Duty, it's essentially just basketball with guns and jetpacks.
Call of Duty
That's what we're
basketball,
seeing a lot of that here.
It's like basketball with guns. That's a good way to
So-
put it. And
so-
jetpacks. It sounds a lot more fun.
Just a bit more action here. We've got it's just 1 point for the throw, and if you can carry the drone in, just a satellite, just a ball-shaped objective in the middle of the map, you can carry it in. That's going to give you 2 points. We are here on the final day of MLG Las Vegas, and Allegiance is an underdog team that not many people expected to make it this far. They've upset the likes of Luminosity Gaming twice in this tournament. They've made it so much farther than people would have expected, and they're impressing everyone in attendance.
It was also a big win for them. I think they ended up beating E6 as well. That was a top team coming from
E6 was
from
coming through to stomp top teams.
Yeah.
And
then ALG out of nowhere is like, nope, actually we're the top team here.
It pulls the rug right from underneath them.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting stuff, but like I said, every time we start to count out ALG is when they start to succeed. So with that in mind, you've got to keep your predictions maybe a little bit closer to yourself if you're a FaZe fan. But taking a look here through the arsenal of each and every player, not seeing anything too crazy. Obviously, we shouldn't be. Not expecting any snipers or anything like that. Any LMGs, of course, those are banned. But anyway, we're going to move on. Time for game number 3, Precinct Uplink. I'm going to go on board with Remy here off the start as FaZe start to actually make a huge rush over toward middle off the break.
2 players coming towards mid with the drone. That's going to be Attach. Taking point with the objective. They start off the game with 3 kills in their favor. This could be a huge opportunity. They're going to have to kill one more wave of Allegiance players, though, after this drone is thrown so that they can keep control of the enemy base. But no, he gets stopped short just before he can get in the throw range. Allegiance off the respawn. They come up and answer back in a big way, but there it is. Clayster's able to sneak by after his kill, prioritizing that objective, and is able to put point number 1 on the board for FaZe.
There were 3 players there for Clayster, and he just ignores all of them. Decides not to shoot his weapon, is able to get the rebound, so big plays coming in from FaZe here off the start as Attach throws the drone back to his base to kind of secure that one. He's able to find one. Trades coming in as will be an advantage of FaZe for the time being. And it seems that they're actually going to have another opportunity for a team push. Mochilla trying to hold this one off toward back alley, but he quickly falls. So little by little, seems that FaZe starting to make their way here up through the map, and Enable could go for the 1-point toss. That should be good unless an interception comes into play, but it's not going to go through. An early 2-point advantage here for the side of FaZe.
Failed interception there. Clayster trying to remain in position to keep the pressure up for his team, but Mochilla's going to take the drone and completely misdirect him there. And now, if you take a look at your mini-map in the top left corner, you're going to see Fred Faze arrows going towards that drone carrier. Moch, though, is actually going to put it down and opt to pull his gun out. The car just behind him is going to blow up in response to Zuma's grenade. Trades going back and forth. Clayster takes down Remy, and now the drone is in control of FaZe.
They're actually going to be that back alley spawn, so some interesting things here coming in from ALG is the defense should definitely be set up here. Number 6 is actually going to be Attach, who's in a good line set, but he's not able to make anything happen. So we could see that cherry through, trying to push, potentially come out. Achille looking forward, trying to be that lead blocker, finds one, nearly is able to clean up the second. That's big for that player to try and stay alive, but he's able to clean up Zuma in the end. More shots coming in. Mochilla not able to stay alive for that long, and now the drone still lingering, and FaZe realize that they've held on pretty solid in that defensive play. Attach trying to move that one forward. He's going to toss it through middle as FaZe start to regroup.
All right, so here it is. As you said, Attach. He's just trying to regroup with the rest of his FaZe roster around middle map there. Running it out into the middle of the street when they're heavily outnumbered, not the best way to approach it. That's a 2 versus 2, maybe 2 versus 3 situation, and they don't even have a read on as to where Allegiance is set up. So now they're back to base defense. Clayster and Attach are able to open it up with 2 kills, but still Allegiance follows with even more. No, FaZe is able to close it out. This should be a reset of the drone or a reroute of the drone. It's turned over to FaZe. They're still trying to play this middle map route. It's so tough to do, though, when Allegiance is spawning up so close to them in the alleyway.
And the team kill actually comes in. Mochilla over on Simple. So that, if FaZe can win a few gunfights here, that kind of definitely paid dividend. But in the end, it seems that the team fight's kind of going slightly in FaZe's favor. But every time they start to get close, Allegiance off of spawn is able to make a nice team hold. The defense is definitely trying to stand strong when it comes down to the slaying battle. Of course, we definitely favor FaZe as Clayster is able to find a few. Royalty, most kills for his team at 10-9. Clayster at 10-7. Nades out. Zuma finds one over on Remy. They're trying to clear out this side street, but they don't realize there's one player toward that back alley side. It looks like Mochilla is going to be here through middle, but he's not able to clean that one up. But who's on the drone? No one is on the drone yet. Enable has to wrap back all the way. The pass comes in, and the 1-point toss is what they might have to settle for. Another pass comes in, and Zuma is able to be there. Nice passes coming in as now, I believe, FaZe settled for the 1. And it seems that they are going to have a big advantage, but it seemed that while they were getting constant ALG players down, it seemed that they really had a massive struggle to get any points through.
Yeah, it seems like they're having a little bit of an issue with that here. Attach, though, up until this point has been double negative for most of this game. I don't think that that's a tell as to how Attach is playing. I think it's more just the failed attempts with the objective from Faze, because they've had a lot of offensive attempts here. And they've come up with for 3 points for some of them, but again, Attach just trying to focus on the objective a little bit more, even though his teammates end up finishing the job for him. Zuma, though, takes down Sinful. Enable's making moves towards Alleyway. The drone's on the opposite side of it. Remy wants to get it out of his base as soon as he can. But I think they're actually just trying to waste some time here. Just 40 seconds left on the clock. It looks like they're going to go ahead and reroute it behind the lobby here towards Statue.
Tosses that one down, of course, just trying to gain a few yards, trying to rely on his team, who's not really preferred when it comes down to slaying, as Clayster finds 2, might even find the 3rd, but Remy's able to shut him down. A big 1v1 gunfight coming in from Attach, but Remy decides to play a little bit more passively, waiting for his squad to come up to maybe try and enforce another team fight in their favor. Shot starting to come in, the drone yet again thrown forward, so ALG making slight progress, but they're getting constantly held here over inside of Closet. Sinful finds one, but cannot find the second, and Mochila is nowhere near toward that drone to try and trade. Enable able to escape, and he's going to have an opportunity for a last 1 point toss, but Itachi gets it thrown to him, but he's able to get the dunk at the last second. Big major plays coming in there from FaZe as they're able to get the 2-point dunk there in at the end, as they'll be up 5-0 at the half.
That dunk was a huge momentum swing for FaZe there towards the end of the round. That's just so demoralizing to happen at the very last second in an uplink match, especially when you're shooting at him, but the armor keeps him alive when he has that drone in his hands. So now getting into the second half, we got a pumped up FaZe and a respawn game mode that they should be able to close out here. Clayster currently performing the best in the lobby, and if he can just continue with that, FaZe has no sign of weakness in this uplink.
Absolutely not. Well, we'll see what ALG can potentially try and provide. Of course, the opening break from China's side is absolutely lethal as 3 start to go down. Zoom, the last player alive, he tries to stay up, but Remy is there, so a nice early push coming in from the ALG side. We talk about momentum. That's going to be a little bit now in ALG's favor, as it now is a 2-possession game, but Zuma trying to make that 3. Currently lingering as they try to get a push here at the start of the second half.
All right, so now we have FaZe on the offense again, but they're coming in from gas side over towards Construction and Cherry Blossom. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to have to, try and figure out exactly where the enemy team is lying down and waiting and playing defense from. And it looks like 2 of them will be inside of Cherry Blossom, just prone and waiting, and all the kills go in favor of them. That's just a really tough corner to turn. Like, those are really difficult gunfights to win. So now we have the turnover. Allegiance is going to take the drone with the 1-point play, but this actually might be a blessing in disguise. They could get a dunk here. But no, it's not. It looks like it is. Are you able to tell if it's out of the map? I think it's just out of play, out of range. But there we go. A FaZe player picks it up, and Enable's just going to try and get it away from his satellite.
An unfortunate miss there from the side of ALG. You thought maybe the momentum, they could already score 3 at the beginning of this at the beginning of the second half, but not able to make it happen. As Attach does that one a little bit farther forward. Of course, utilizing that drone armor, might have an opportunity. He's able to swing past 2, goes for the toss, but will it go through? It's just going to be short. And it seems that ALG also being able to escape with tosses going off on either side, so both teams missing 1s. But with FaZe still in the lead, just under 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second half.
Right, so we have Allegiance up on the offensive side again here, trying to bring the drone up through a ticket booth here, but it looks like there's not a whole lot of pressure and a whole lot of assistance here or follow-up from Remy's positioning. The drone's actually going to reset back to middle map. FaZe is going to maintain a defensive position around ticket booth, and no one is making any moves towards this drone, but the time is working against Allegiance. They don't have the lead. It's a 2-possession game at the moment. FaZe is perfectly fine with waiting out this clock and playing some defense. As you can see, Enable in position with the MP4. They have to get through his crosshairs to come to the drone. They might be able to do that, though, now that it's 3 versus 4, or excuse me, 4 versus 1. He's going to die, though. Easy drone carry right there. The overdrive is popped. Royalty going in for the dunk. Now it's a 1-possession game. They're right back into it. 2.5 minutes to work with. FaZe needs to get some points on the board here soon to increase this lead if they want to hope of finishing this game.
And if we want points, if you're a FaZe fan, Clayster is the player to make those things happen. Well, Sinful able to use the rewind. He's able to find another one. That's going to be a great use of it. Sinful on a 7 spree. Now Mochila has an opportunity. Sinful absolutely going off. Zuma shuts him down in the end, but it doesn't matter as ALG have taken the lead. Just over a 2-minute warning left. When we talk about the payload usage of the side of FaZe, they still have that overdrive. Attach, I believe, is getting very, very close to that rewind. Enable close to the active camo, getting closer and closer as those could absolutely play huge for the side of FaZe if they want to close this one out.
All right, so Enable wants to try and have some more pressure towards mid. He knows he should be expecting someone around the corner here. Going to check his corner, slide through. He wants to play around the objective, but he does not look towards construction, and he pays for it. Now, Clayster with the overdrive active is going to take the drone. He's on the offense, but he doesn't have the support. He knows that on the opposite side of that wall are two different Allegiance players. So with the overdrive boost, he's going to decide to reroute, gets the beat down, and he still is stuck waiting for his team. He has no support, and he's taken out.
That's so frustrating to see. I mean, you can see he rocks it maybe a little bit more prematurely as the streaks come in. The player who's trying to be the lead blocker ends up falling. Maybe they just didn't know the positioning of the side of ALG, but they've been awarded potentially a push of their own. The streaks coming in from Sinful thanks to that 8 or 9 speed that he went on. Royalty tries to go for a score, but he ends up getting shut down. I don't believe there's any players there alive. Mochila will be here, but it's a 3-on-1 for Faze as they're able to win that particular engagement and are trying to get this drone forward.
It was a huge play from Enable. Even though he got the team kill there, he knows he just needed to spray down to get the double kill and stop the drone, and ended up paying off. They have 1 minute, though, to get a point on the board here and either force the overtime or get 2 points and end the game. They need this respawn. They don't want to risk going to Game 5 here, even though they have potential to take it. There it happens to be Allegiance's strong point, Landon.
That's active camo earned there from Enable, attached as well. So here comes the active camo enabled. Of course, the ping on the map might be a little bit delayed as Faze have an opportunity to go for one, but can he knock it in? It's going to bounce! I don't know how that just happened. The lucky bounce goes in for Enable, and now it's tied at 6 apiece with just 30 seconds remaining.
That 1 point play is absolutely huge. They just forced at least an overtime. And we see no drone control in the possession on either side here, but Attach does win the gunfight. That might be able to give it over to Faze. He has to pop the rewind, though, to avoid dying there on mid. He's not able to save it for overtime, so that might come into play here soon, as we see 2 players on the side of Allegiance are working towards their payloads. Clayster grabs the drone. He has 5 seconds to make something happen here, but that's not enough as it hits the ground and rolls over. That's going to be Royalty that picks it up. We're going to overtime in map 3.
I can imagine. I mean, what would have happened if in that one play near statue, if Clayster doesn't use his overdrive? I mean, say he maybe waits for it. There's a couple times there where Clayster was in that gunfight versus Royalty. Say that gunfight goes differently, or he tries to run past Royalty. That can easily be a 1 point play in the last few seconds of that. Obviously that second half. So
or something to score here in overtime, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point as well. So there's a lot of opportunities that overdrive can definitely provide, but you got to be looking. Mochila actually has that active camo still. Zuma with the reactive armor. It's really about all for either side at the moment, but Zuma able to find one. Attached does as well as it looks like the payload gets rocked here from Zuma. The reactive armor just trying to stay up. Actually, the other player uses the active kill and he ends up getting dropped, so Mochila falls, and that's going to be used in a defensive manner rather than an offensive one. That's going to be wasted in some cases, and he ends up falling.
3 Allegiance players around ticket booth, and Clayster knows he doesn't stand a chance when he's that outnumbered. Score streaks coming in as well to keep them off the power position. Drone gets thrown towards L-Wall. Clayster's trying to take point, maybe bait out an Allegiance player to run into his tactical, but Attach is making his job a whole lot easier as he blows open the gates with the 2-piece. 1 player last on Z. Someone needs to get this trade, but no one can stop Sinful. There we go. Enable puts him down. 1 more in ticket booth. Enable just saved that entire engagement there, as that player on Z surely would have pushed through and been able to make something happen. And Remy, the player on Z, does just that, finding his kill. Trade coming in from Enable again, the 2-piece, pre-firing for the 3rd. He runs out of ammo, switches weapon, finishes the job anyway. That's a huge momentum swing for Faze. Someone needs to grab the drone, get some objective work done here, as Enable slaying out the entire enemy team. But it resets back to middle map, and now they have to do it all over again. Luckily for them, Allegiance all around alleyway. No, but they get the kills in their favor. There's the 1 point play in 1 minute and 23 seconds.
That was such a huge sequence of kills going in Enable's favor, because you look at it, both players are kind of spawning on the opposite side. Allegiance was getting ready to gain some map control. Enable's able to go big with a number of different kills. Attach ends up dropping toward that backside, but he's able to gain enough time to allow Clayster to move forward. So with that in mind, time set at 1 minute and 23. Of course, this is not by any means undoable for the side of Allegiance. It's just a 1 point play.
Well, they're about to have Remy's reactive armor to work with, but him losing that engagement is actually big, as if he'd won it, he would have access to it and could continue to slay alongside Sinful, who's trying to play the objective. But all of his team falls. Faze gets most of the kills. Sinful's the only one that can do any damage here, and Enable, the one who went so clutch for Faze the round before this overtime, is still staying alive and doing damage alongside Clayster. It's just so devastating. It's so oppressive. Clayster, Zuma, Enable pushing through. No issues at all. 50 seconds. They're still running that clock down, and the time is working against Allegiance. There's the dunk. That's That's the game. Map number 3 goes to Faze.
That was such a huge play at the start of that second, or after that second overtime, because what Faze tries to do there, you notice those smokes coming out. What they're trying to do is, when that team is spawning on China side, Allegiances, you're able to send 2 through back gas, 2 through middle, and if you're able to have those players through gas, find those 2 kills, it's an easy pass and an easy 1-point toss that you can get. And using that smoke, they're able to block the vision, find the kills, and in the end, they're able to knock in the 2-point play to close it out. So with that in mind, that's now going to be Faze, who are leading this series at 2-1. And up next is a game mode that they are definitely preferred in. It's Hardpoint, and I believe it's actually going to be on Scorch.
Hopping into Hardpoint on Scorch. I think we've seen Faze's strengths in Hardpoint. I think that's one thing that they're very strong on that map is holding that wind turbine, the turbine towards the back of the map, holding that Hardpoint down. I think this is one of their strengths for sure. And I think that just overall in that game mode, they're stronger than Allegiance. I mean, we saw map number 1 that it was just easy mode for Faze. They just stomped their way through the what 4 or 5 minutes of that game lasted.
Yeah.
And
do you think?
I think we see a repeat of that here. That's the end of the series. What's
Yeah.
your prediction for this matchup?
I definitely agree. I mean, I think when it comes down to a map like Scorch, I mean, if they're able to hold down the big hills, like you mentioned, Turbine, and I think if Faze can start to kind of, in some ways, dog them around, use their slang advantage in the way that they should, they can easily take this game when it comes down to it. I mean, they won that first one 250-111. That's on retaliation, which come down to a lot of clutch gunfights. And if that's the exact same that comes down to Scorch on certain hills, I think they can easily take this one. But I want to ask you, when it comes down to the side of Allegiance, of course, the underdogs coming into this hard point, who do you think, or what do you think needs to go right for them as far as what players need to go off, certain strategies to use on certain hills when it comes down to Scorch? Is there any player that you're looking at individually to have a major performance for them in order to force that Game 5?
I've been saying it all weekend long about this Allegiance roster. It has to be Moch and Sinful. They got to continue doing what they're doing. They can't slow down. They can't let that loss on overtime in the last map bring their performance down in the slightest. They need to remain composed and continue being the explosive players that Allegiance has had all weekend long if they want any hope of upsetting Faze on this hardpoint map and forcing the Game 5 where they definitely have more potential to win. Still, though, on the side of Faze, that's a very, very tall order. These guys, when they find any sort of a weakness that you have in this game mode, they will stomp all over it.
Yeah.
A perfect example is what we saw in map number 1. Once they got their setup going, you weren't breaking it. I mean, we saw some weird shot calling from Allegiance where they would give them full 60s and just rotate early and then lose that hill as well. So I'm just not sure that they're quite up to par in their hardpoint skills against the likes of Faze here.
It almost like they seemed a little bit unorganized in that first hard point. Like, should we push this? Should we not? Like you said, are certain players making calls that they shouldn't be, or are they in roles that they shouldn't be as well? As I'm not really sure who obviously makes the calls for Allegiance. It could be a group effort. Maybe like players like Mochilla or Sinful, kind of in some cases, veterans of the scene. Are they making those calls? And when it comes down to a map like Scorch, I mean, it is constantly fast-paced. I know we're going to see the Centurion rock from Clayster when it comes down to this map. With constant nades, we use that trophy drone as well for that trait. And I think this is going to be a very fast-paced game, which I think is definitely kind of catered to a player like Royalty. I'm curious to see how Mochilla performs. Mochilla isn't necessarily a super fast player. In titles past, whenever you really want to kind of name, he's always been that slower AR. Can definitely get the slaying done without question. I mean, all the rosters that he's been on in the past, usually a lot of the time the top KD leader. But it just seems that in the end, from what we've seen so far from ALG, is just they aren't able to get those coordinated pushes down. And like I said, it's the fact of getting Mochilla and Sinful on the same wavelength. And it's almost like, in some cases, in my opinion, Sinful and Remy are kind of like that median who are trying to bring those two together to kind of play toward that middle map. If Royalty's, up in their faces and Mochilla's in the back, then you have those two guys in the middle just trying to do the damage and try to bring those guys together.
So, see, for this map, I'm more looking on the side of Faze for Clayster and Enable to just do some serious damage. I mean, we saw just how hot they were on the uplink, how much of a factor they were on the hard point. They should be able to continue that here, close it out against whatever Allegiance has planned for them. If you're just tuning in, I'm Fox. This is Landon.
Hey.
We have Allegiance. Hey. We have Allegiance and Faze Clan here in an elimination match. Faze with the hot hand coming off of that overtime uplink win.
Time we had an opportunity to try to make a play happen. They kind of outbaited us. They used the smokes to kind of try to block our vision. So I think the momentum is definitely in FaZe's favor, and if ALG doesn't come out hot, I think this could definitely be a very demolishing win, not just a win for FaZe, but a demolishing one. I'm not saying it's going to be like a 100-point club or anything like that necessarily, but I think if ALG wants to close this out, they've got to come out fast. They have to go all guns blazing. Mochila has to be doing his job. I think Remy needs to have a big impact, and I think the sub-duo kind of Sinful and Royalty definitely need to get into FaZe, constantly challenging and kind of in some ways overwhelming the side of FaZe Clan.
Yeah, Sinful, very high impact player in these respawns here. Someone that Allegiance definitely needs to rely on. But guys, we're about to load right into our rig draft here. Inside of FaZe Clan, you should usually expect to see Enable running the camo. Clayster could pull out the Centurion. Those are some of the usual things we see for this team when it comes to hard point play. On the side of Allegiance, the thing that stands out to me the most about them is their combat burst and S&D, but when we get into respawns, he still likes to use Synaptic, but he goes rewind and Propulsion. I don't think that we're going to see combat burst in a respawn. I think he's see rewind Propulsion on that Synaptic rig for Sinful. On the side of FaZe, though, it looks like Clay straying away from the Centurion.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I think it was just for the first day of the tournament. It's where he was running it the most.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of leaning more towards Overdrive here. So I'm not sure if that's just matchup specific or if that's just them learning throughout the weekend what is and what isn't working and what's more impactful.
Right, and of course they could be loading up on trophies. They say, well, we don't really need the trophy drone. We don't really need that necessarily. We can just have trophies ourselves. But FaZe is known for being a high, tactical, lethal team, like to throw those off the start. And if we know anything about Scorch, hardpoint #1 over on Bridge, I mean, nades are flying constantly. To let you guys know, as far as this series update, if you're just joining us coming from Alpha or even just kind of tuning into MLG Vegas so far, we're currently in losers semis. The winner of this match is guaranteed top 3. Loser goes home. Both of these teams have made miraculous tournament runs so far here at the MLG Vegas Open. Map #1, Hardpoint, went to FaZe's favor, 250 to 111. Reason being why we're favoring them in this next Hardpoint, and just based off of previous maps so far in the tournament. Map #2, Search and Destroy Crusher, went to Allegiance in a dominating fashion, 6-2, and we ended up seeing a fantastic map. Over on Uplink, we saw some overtime, and it was FaZe who was able to win that one at 10-6 once the scores were all added up. So now it's time for map #4, Hardpoint on Scorch. Myself, Fox, both predicting that we're going to see FaZe most likely close this one out. We need Allegiance to have a massive and a big, really, overall performance at the beginning of this game, because if not, we could definitely see FaZe start to go on a run. We know the momentum that they can bring. Clayster's loud volume that he likes to bring, one of the best, I think, captains and just overall hype mans for any squad that he's on. I mean, he could be down 0-5 in a Search and Destroy and say, one more round. He can definitely kind of hype up the team. So with that in mind, ALG is going to have a tall order if they want to see a Game 5 happen.
It's also another thing that I think FaZe has such a high clutch factor. I feel like they're not the team that they have these moments of choking, but I feel like it's usually in the earlier stages of the tournament. I think that they're definitely someone you can rely on to close out of a series when they have an advantage. So we'll just have to see if that reigns true here. I think they understand their win factor, and all they have to do is bite down onto it. So here we have it. Allegiance flooding 3 straight towards the middle of the map. They do have a 4th player going towards Drill, but most of the action is going to be here in the middle on Bridge. Zuma was trying to catch that player on the flank, but actually they both just get some odd timing and run right by each other. Remy, though, gets on the better end of that deal and is able to find his first kill. And Allegiance gets the first bit of time on the hard point. Attached trying to get aggressive with the OSA, but after he finds his first kill, he's shut down. Kills going in favor of FaZe. Remy in position to respond, though. Again, just trading, going back and forth, but not too much objective being gained from it until now. Enable's in position. He's still tagged up and can't finish off Mochila, though. And they're actually, so far, just keeping up with FaZe's slaying power. Yeah,
while the spawns begin to flip, of course, ALG, while they're doing a great job here off the start, they've got to be aware of those spawns. While Mochila is fighting through middle, it wouldn't be a bad idea for them just to leave this hard point, be ready for the rotations to come in over toward Turbine, but it seems that the spawns start to come in. Sinful is in position, as well as the other 3. So with that in mind, it seems that they are going to be focusing their attention here over toward Turbine, which, in my opinion, is definitely needed. You cannot be fighting for those scrap points, and if you let FaZe get a little bit of an edge, they can start to definitely run away with it.
I feel like FaZe just needs to get that initial time, get that initial setup, beat them on a rotation, and hold on to it. They can't break your setup. If they can get there, I think that they have a much stronger defense than Allegiance's offense. But right now, we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing Allegiance with a strong setup and rotation, and FaZe has to break it. They're flooding so many of their players towards this wall run here. The Anchor should have no problem mowing a few of them down. That's Mochila hanging out behind them. Attached knows he has to win this gunfight. He's able to close the gap, but he runs out of bullets in his magazine. just at the last second, and it looks like Allegiance is able to hold on to some more of that hill time.
Yeah, Legion's holding strong right now as Mochila and Sinful starting to combine for a few kills. Mochila tries to turn the one over on Head Glitch, a big win as Allegiance starting to hold strong. We say they need to have a big impact when it comes down to the start of this hard point, and they're doing exactly that. Rotations begin to come in. I believe attached, not really, there's a player just off to his right as Allegiance are already on the rotation yet again, and 3 go down. Allegiance looking hot here off the break, which is exactly what they need to do.
Moch is just on fire right now. They need to shut him down. He's working on those score streaks. Let's give this man a little bit of a spotlight here as he calls in his first one. 50 points away. He wants to stay alive and win this engagement. That he does. Fully streaked out. Another one in hallway, but he's got to reload. Whoever that is around the corner needs to take advantage of it. That he does. 3 kills in favor of Faze. Sinful, though, with the Hornet, trying to finish the job, but he can't do it. Zuma keeping the pressure up in the hard point. Those 2 kills were absolutely huge. This gives Faze an opportunity to get a setup going. It should be able to read exactly where this Allegiance setup and push is coming from.
Faze trying to set up camp as Allegiance players beginning to start to spawn out. Both Royalty and Sinful. Opposite teammates having to do a little bit of damage. As Zuma trying to find this player in back closet. He's not able to find that one. So while Faze is holding down some time, they've got to be aware of that player on the flank. And Attach is aware, and looks like that player is going to try and maybe play his live, try to challenge for the last few seconds. But is going to be aware. Attach lingering over as rotations will come back here. And it seems that who's winning that rotation battle? It seems that time's still going over in Faze's favor as Enables in that early hard point.
Yeah, Allegiance was there right off the gate, but just that easy kill Enable just took him out. There was no follow-up to it. He's still going to stay alive in the hard point. The score streaks, though, that's going to be more than enough follow-up. Remy finds 2 kills, a grenade, and his K-bar. Now he takes point in the hill, keeping the pressure up as he pushes towards Medic. 2 Faze players just around the corner, but he can't even get past the first gunfight. Mochila, if you take a look at the right side of your screen, you can see he still has access to that score streak. That might come into play here up next off his spawn because Allegiance has time for at least 1 more push before we get back to the middle hard point.
Remy and Mochila, the dynamic duo so far, as Remy's able to find 2, finds the 3rd as well as 4 go down for Faze, and ALG start to rally as they've gotten a little bit of a lead. Of course, it's not that big, but it's at least a little bit of an impact that they needed. They're showing Faze and saying, hey, we're willing to contest with you. We're not going down without a fight, and our spawning and our gun skill might not be as bad as you think it is. Mochila pushing forward as Allegiance yet again are going to win those first side rotations by about 20 points.
Take a look at your mini-map, though. We've got Allegiance players all over the map. They are not in range to get on this hill. They're still winning their engagements, but it doesn't matter because Zuma's still on the objective, and they can just trade as soon as the Faze players spawn back up and re-engage. Easy setup for Faze. Allegiance has to set up, or has to get ready to break it. Score streaks come in to try and make it a little bit easier. Sinful following up with a kill should be exactly what they need here, but they still haven't touched the objective. They're wrapping all the way around. Let's see if they can do anything about Enable just sitting here uncontested. Oh, great spray transfer from Sinful there.
Sinful? Okay, buddy, but of course Sinful might be redirecting his eyes toward this next rotation over in Turbine. They were able to do that last time. Royalty making a little bit of a noise here as Remy and Royalty, the dynamic duo, previous teammates back on Team Revenge back in the day, are trying to make an impact with those close quarter weapons, it seems, as those close quarter game styles, play styles rather. But of course rotation coming in, and we saw a fantastic hold here last round. Last half from the side of ALG as they're going to need to have that same magic, but it seems that Faze are going to be holding the first few seconds, and it's now going to be up to ALG to try to break the setup.
There we go. Zuma is going to be the one taking point against the wall run rush, trying to keep a little bit of pressure and catch them off guard. It ends up failing. Someone needs to be able to follow up on this play, though. But it looks like Sinful is going to be the aggressor here, or not quite the aggressor, but watching the lower entrance from Warehouse as they're able to get the turbine setup. And I was complimenting Faze's turbine setup on this map, but we haven't even really gotten to see it yet. ALG seems to just be walking all over them despite the game being close. It really does just feel like the players on ALG are playing much better. It's just surprising that with how well they're doing in the stats column, that the score doesn't represent the same thing.
I think one player is definitely having a major impact is Remy, 20-9. Absolutely going off. Of course, double positive spots 1 through middle just to gain a little bit of information. Shuts down 1. Of course, rotations getting ready to come in here over toward a hangar. And it seems that last time on these rotations, it was Faze who were able to hold a decent setup as Royalty uses his overdrive for the rotation, able to win that gunfight. It looks like 3 players to be very, very close to their payloads as Royalty just uses his. And if they want to try to break this hill, the utility might be coming in from the side of Faze, but they don't actually have any of their payloads. Simple to make him pay for it. Can he clutch up the gunfight? He needs to find 2, but he's able to find 1. Mochila still trying to hold strong as the active camo could come into play here very shortly.
All right, Moch After he takes out that first player, he knows that a second engagement has to be coming shortly, so he pops the camo to give himself an advantage in that gunfight until he figures out where Attach is coming from. He comes out on top. Hangar Hill in control of Allegiance in control of Hangar Hill, and Sinful is the front line just outside on the balcony. Drop shot turns on Clayster and shuts him down. Allegiance really has the hot hand right now. Faze needs to get their head back into the game. This should be their game mode. This should be their series, but Allegiance is not letting it come easy.
Sinful making an impact here in Sin City, trying to bring ALG to force the Game 5. Can they make it happen? Only 45 seconds more needed, and Faze definitely starting to struggle. You see Clayster currently -6, 8 and 18 from Attach. He was known as a major factor back at Black Ops 3 in the beginning, actually at PSX for the side of Faze, who were end up actually champions of that particular tournament. Well, of course, it's a different tournament. ALG is a new team, and we're going to see if they can potentially hold strong as they completely get broken through. It seems that ALG are having an easy time starting to break these hills, and with that in mind, as a team nade comes through from Zuma over on Enable, that's going to completely break this setup. This could be Allegiance getting even closer to closing this game out.
Yeah, their head's not in the game. I don't think they're going to come back from this one. Allegiance looks like they're going to keep pouring it on here. No signs of them slowing down or stopping in any way. Zuma, though, trying to be the front line here. Keep the pressure on this objective for Faze. And Attach is going to get his cut towards the right. They should be able to get most of this hardpoint time. Just 15 seconds remaining before we rotate over to middle map. Contest comes in. Remy is able to beat Zuma. Clayster comes through for the trade, but there's still one more Allegiance player just around the corner. Attach can't get a line of sight on him, but it doesn't matter. Clayster's able to do the job for him, and they're going to get that scrap time, but Allegiance has set up for the first hardpoint.
Allegiance are very happy to see the rotation start to come in here over toward middle, as they've completely dominated when it comes down to the first two hills, especially over that one on Turbine, which I think has led to a lot of their points. And of course, the slaying factor coming in from both Remy and Mochilla. Remy not known to be a major slayer. I used to call him the young TP just because of the fact that he was able to get the slaying done while also doing the objective, but he's definitely doing both of those right now. Of course, FaZe Clan getting a lot of free time right now here, Fox. They look to try to get the pinch to come in, excuse me.
Oh, he has access to rewind right there. Doesn't pop it. He didn't even expect the second player to come up to trade for that engagement. Allegiance taking control of this hardpoint. 20 seconds away from closing it out. It's first to 250 seconds in the objective to win it here. And with a lot of the utility on the side of FaZe, they still do have the chance to come back. We've seen them clutch in moments like these before.
Big kill.
Clayster with the big kill on his overdrive. He's going to try and rotate over to Turbine, but it looks like Allegiance is already set up for it. Clayster needs to actually go huge here. Enable pops the camo. This could be an expensive play here. If this doesn't work out, that's going to be the end of the game. He gets behind the anchor, takes him out, finds another player on the hard point. The trigger discipline from Enable pays off in a big way as FaZe is set up. Now they know the push has to be coming from Drill side. Enable is pre-aiming, ready and willing and waiting for it. He loses the engagement, but the rest of his teammates are there to try and make up for the mistake. Clayster finding 2 kills is huge for their momentum. Attach coming up to play the objective as well, has access to rewind. This is a situation we've seen FaZe in before. They could clutch up and bring it back.
FaZe in a perfect situation. They've done this before. Prior tournament, PSX, they were able to make it happen. It's a different map, but it's the same game mode. Payload started to come in. Attach drops with the rewind, but FaZe have brought this one back. They can even start to take the lead, but here comes the force of ALG, both going to be over on that head glitch. Royalty trying to hold strong here. This is a big gunfight that he needs to win. His teammates are able to break it, but big two-piece there coming in from Royalty as they're going to be granted the last few seconds, and they can even win off of this hill.
Attach has to get in there. He has to sacrifice himself. That just gave him that just gave his team enough time to try and set up for Hangar. That was a huge death. Even if he didn't get a kill, he extended the game just a little bit longer for FaZe to try and clutch up here. Zoom is in position. He has access to the reactive armor. There's one Allegiance player unaccounted for flanking underneath them. He needs to get shut down soon. Hallway, dead. Just 10 seconds separating them from the massive comeback. They've done it before. They can do it again. He pops the reactive armor. It just happens to be too soon. Allegiance is too slow. He still wins the engagement. 3 in favor of FaZe. They come back and they bring it. They are able to win the series in such a dramatic fashion.
My, as FaZe rally forward, they're able to win this one by 2 seconds. We talk about the massive plays that came in there from Enable, the active camo usage, the big 1v1 gunfights over on Turbine, the sacrificial play they're coming in from Attach just to grant his team a few more seconds. They're able to hold strong, and in the end, it is FaZe who will continue their run through the losers bracket. Allegiance will be knocked out of MLG Vegas, and FaZe win in such a dramatic fashion. We were talking about Allegiance, how well they were doing. We were talking about the aggression that was coming. Remy started off so well, but in the end, the clutch factor is what brings them back and FaZe are able to close this one out yet again. My,
Just,
that was
can we just take
incredible.
a look? Take in this scoreboard here. Not a single player on FaZe went positive this game, and they were negative for most of the game, but they were